and I'm not holding a clothes prop. Today we're going to talk about the spear, the various types of spear, and this one, you can see, is called a winged spear. Now, this isn't an everyday thing. This would be for somebody of the warrior or lordly class. Is it called a winged spear? Does it fly? No, it's because of these. Now, later on I shall show you how to use them. This would be for a wealthy person because of all the metal in it. And this, as winged spears go, is pretty small. We have them quite longer, and some were what we'll call pattern welded. Pattern welded means, imagine plaiting steel iron rods. That makes it flexible. I've just had a shield dropped on me. I'll explain this later on. Now, this is a more common weapon. When people talk about Vikings, they always talk about swords. Swords were for very, very wealthy people or kings' bodyguards. Even cases of people having sharpened sticks and scorched in the fire. This is quite a well-to-do person, a professional. Now, it's quite long, which is jolly useful, and my assistant here can put the shield where it is. Couldn't get Debbie McGee. So, how do you work it? Well, I will show you. Imagine if you'd like to just hold the shield as though you're in a shield war. This is how it looks really. And we're in a line. I would have people like him in front of me, and what I would do, I would hook the shield and then in and then back. A very, very effective. It's called wing spear. Guess what? Because it has wings. Now, the shaft is very long, believe you and me. If you're in a battle, even a reenactment battle, distance is your friend. Because you think, I don't know how long this is.
9 foot.
9 feet.
2 inches.
2 inches. The average sword is about 33 inches.
33 to 36.
Yeah. Let's put it this way. They're not going to get you. This is a far more efficient and effective weapon. And there are accounts that from Denmark. I'm just going to sit down here. You can put the of the kit that a Viking should have: bow and several arrows, deerskin jerkin, and a spear. When you think about it, it's one of the most simple weapons out, but used properly, it's one of the most effective. The next one, I suppose, would be the bow and arrow, which means you can go even further. We've got flies everywhere here. The shaft itself would be made of ash. Interesting point. King Alfred would make sure that he was a Saxon, by the way, but but the shafts were inspected, because if it breaks, you've had it. Similar thing was done with boar hunting spears. Spears were very, very effective weapons. So much so that Odin, one of his names is actually Lord of Spears. And we see several images, some of which I've got tattooed on me, which I'm not going to show you, so I'm sure you'll be glad of that. But you have dancing men holding spears, and it's obviously a great part to do with the Norse culture. When I say Norse, I also mean the Saxons as well. Widespread area. And yeah, a very, very effective weapon. It's not just a weapon of war. You think about it. You get a wild boar, you've got about 200 pounds of bad attitude, and you stab them. If you stab a wild boar, it'll run up the shaft. They are pork with attitude. And you had special boar hunting spears. there are different types of spears. You get javelins, which obviously are for throwing. You know this, A, it probably won't reach, and B, when you've thrown that, what do you got? Nothing. You're just a nice target. We've got some weird flies hanging around here. Seem to be very attracted to me.
It's called nature.
Yeah, well. So anyway, if you're a reenactor and you see these, you got big trouble. It's a very, very effective weapon. And you get a shield with all of these. There will be more experienced people. Many a time on the battlefield, I remember, oh, I'm showing my age now, when I fought at York, I used to go down the line using the shield wall to protect me, so I didn't have to carry this around. I just reach over and pop and walk along. And I remember this particular occasion because there was a young lady with a Dane axe, and she was trying to get me and I was trying to get her. Fortunately, we both survived. We had a good laugh afterwards. Now you talk about reenactment spears, don't come away with the fact that these are not dangerous. I've seen people injured with these, and trust me, you have to stick to safety rules. There's no sharp edges on it, and the point is dull. In real life, this would be like a mini sword or dagger on a stick, and would have a keen point. And even with a mail shirt, with enough force, you could probably force the rings apart. Certainly you could break bones, and you'd certainly know it if you were hit. So quite a versatile weapon. Now there are archaeological excavations, I've forgotten where, but the spear is actually inlaid with silver. That's how precious these were looked on. You find these spear heads in graves. Obviously the wooden shaft is rotted away. But it is the principal weapon of the warrior. Very, very useful thing to have. Can you imagine, you have a line of men with shields holding the spears. That's quite a formidable thing to do. It's a refinement, if you will, of the Alexandria spear, where they had a long shaft. And we've got some various other types of spears. My assistant Charmaine here. Now,
2 javelins.
He's giving the game away. These are javelins.
Not fastened onto the head yet.
Yeah, that one's fallen off. This is the shaft.
Who is the shaft?
They would bang a nail or screw in there. These are more for hunting and for sport. It's what's called a leaf shape. So, if you catch that on the camera, as that enters a body, be it a wild boar or a person, you can pull it out. These would be more like your shock troops. You get a line of these, they just throw them, and that can ruin your day. I showed you the wing spear. Now, this is a reenactor's version of an ordinary spear. Forget the bobble on the end, that's a safety thing. Do you imagine that really pointed, like that one? And again, you have the length. It's a bit kinky, there's the shaft here. But again, at the time, who's to say the shafts weren't like this? You get them as straight as you can. I suppose you put them over a fire and when it's green and straighten it.
Well, you can do that. I think most of them would be pollarded and done correctly. If you're in a rush, you're just going to use what you're going to use, aren't you?
Well, I mean, Bragi's more into the sort of the woodwork side of things. Me, I just like stabbing people. But anyway, we could see that there is a veritable smorgasbord. I don't know if you could catch that on camera, but you see the wing spear, an ordinary leaf spear. And again, there are examples where it's inlaid with silver and even gold. There are pattern welded spears. I've seen those, but they're few and far between even today because
No, I like to own one.
yeah, it's expensive. And leaf spear, I mean, you can use it for fun. It's a target practice, hunting spear, and shot weapon. You know, instead of a load of arrows, you've got arrows. You've got these flying over at you. It'll ruin your day if it hit you. But it's also easier to extract because of the leaf shape. And here we are, it's another one. This is more of a bodkin. This would be ideal against people wearing mail. I won't say chainmail because that's an incorrect term. Mail. And the sharp point would force the rings apart, and that's where only rich people would have full mail. And this would ruin their day. Would pierce part the rings through the padded jacket, through the tunic or skirta, to the underskirta, to the body underneath. That would certainly ruin your day. At the moment this needs securing with a nail.
We've got a comment here just from Eirik Rickardsson.
Hi Eirik.
One of our Viking brothers.
Hi.
And he's watching our live stream. He says, with a spear of that reach, you'll be untouchable. Hello, my brothers. I hope you're both well. Yes, we are.
We are, thank you, and I hope you're being safe as well. We live in turbulent, as the Chinese would say, we live in interesting times. But we're not going to let it bring us down. We're getting it under control, and I hope you've had the injections. I have. As was it George Harrison said, all things must pass. So, you know, we'll look back on this in a few years' time and think, we've learned nothing. But anyway, lovely to hear from you, and keep those comments coming in.
Now, would you say the spear is the oldest and most common weapon?
Pretty much. I mean, we talk about Neolithic times where they had flint points or even sharpened sticks. Take some courage if you're going to take on a mammoth or something like that. Or even in the Norse times, the oryx, which is, if you imagine the Arnold Schwarzenegger of the bull world. I mean, today, even, you know, these big Spanish bulls would look weedy compared to an oryx, and they've got attitude, to say the least. Fortunately or unfortunately, they were hunted to extinction in the 17th century. I believe the Nazis tried to bring them back, and there are some, I can't remember where, but I wouldn't like to tackle them, even though they're not pure animals. But as I say, you know, it's not as though in those days you could nip down the supermarket and get yourself a few steaks. If you wanted to eat, you had to do this. So hunting skills were perfected. But spears are very old. I mean, as far as I know, they precede the bow and arrow, which must have been revolutionary. And you think, even with an iron tip, you're facing a mammoth, that's an elephant on steroids. Everything seemed to be big in the time of the cavemen, the Neolithic, and everything seemed to have an attitude wanting to kill you. But if you wanted to eat, that's the sort of thing you had to do. But obviously they must have been successful, otherwise we wouldn't be here today. Hunting techniques also govern the weapons you use, from throwing stones at things, to jabbing them with sharpened sticks, to spears, to bow and arrows, right the way up to today. And fighting techniques. No one ever seems to think of warfare in the Neolithic times. There is a site, and I forget where there was effectively the first ever battle. There were arrow points found, flint ones, and oh, thank you.
There's your cocktail.
orange and ice, lovely.
With rum.
And they found the skull of a woman from this period who had also had suffered head trauma, and they thought quite reasonably that women fought in these battles. The wound on her head had healed, but you could bet your life there would be sharpened sticks or some form of spear. So anyway, I think I've covered most of it about spears. I'd be very interested to hear what you have to say. It's sort of, I think the sort of exaggerating thing, like I said, was the spearmen, Macedonian spearmen, and they were just lines of long spears. But
Very long ones as well.
Yeah.
Infamous they were.
So like 20 feet or something, wasn't
Something
it?
like that.
And that was Philip of Macedon. It seemed to work for him. Didn't last that long, but
That was my first war game army, that was.
yeah,
In 15mm.
imagine carrying that in the hot sun. It's hard enough carrying the kit today.
People were fitter in those days though.
Yeah, but not as cute
Hey,
as
what?
me. Whoa,
Well, you could talk about the shield now. You got one in your arm.
okay.
It's a nice day today, isn't it?
Yeah.
How are you today?
I'm groovy, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm talking to people on camera.
All right, fair enough. I'm something of an egotist. Here we go, there's the shield. This, of course, is a modern shield. This is used in reenactment. It is made of, today, plywood
10mm or 12.
and doggy chews. You know, when you give your doggy a chew to chew on, if you soak this overnight or for a length of time, you can unwind it, tack it on here. It feels quite revolting when you do it.
It
when
does,
it's
it's very
wet.
slimy.
Yeah. I'm
But
glad
would they use the same thing? Because, you know, you're seeing lots of, you know, illustrations, they had metal edges, which
Yeah.
would be completely wrong because they would not use a metal edge on a shield because metal's scarce in those days.
rawhide would
Rawhide.
probably be the
Leather.
same. Yeah. And also, let's think of it this way. If you're caught out in the wild and you need food, leave it off and chew it.
Well, yeah, you could chew it, or your
Yeah.
boots.
Oh yeah. But if we turn it round, you can then see the grip. Sheepskin here to protect it, because when somebody starts going berserk at you, and believe you and me, even in reenactment, that does happen.
Now, is the sheepskin a modern reenactorism, or would they have had sheepskin, do you think? I think so.
I think they would. I mean, if it hurts you now,
It does.
it would hurt them then. They would have planks, and the glue, to glue them together is fascinating. I've seen it on television.
Time Team did an episode on
Yeah.
that, using milk.
Milk
Gone
and-
off beer.
and beer, and it's like slimy stuff. There's a guy in Raker, I don't know his name, but apparently it was very successful.
I think you get your milk and you add your sour beer until it forms up into a clump,
Yeah,
and then you squeeze out the whey, the
Yeah.
water, and then what you're left with is your glue,
sounds,
I believe.
yeah, I think that was it. I mean, it was some years ago.
No, I keep meaning to look at that episode again.
And you'll notice this one is painted. This is the beginning, I suppose you could say, of heraldry. So if you saw that shield and you knew it belonged to Bragi, you wouldn't attack him because he's on my side.
So if we all came from the same village or small Viking town, let's say in Norway, would the shield design be the same?
Not everyone would have a shield.
Would it be down to personal choice as well?
Yeah, if you saw this, you'd know this was Bragi because he's a high status warrior. I know that in ancient Egypt they have wattle and what's it?
Wattle and daub,
Well,
well, wattle.
wattle, because you think that's brilliant. It's light and it can take a lot of punishment. The average person in the shield war would not even have trousers because they're expensive. They're ordinary farmers. They may have an axe, you may have a knife if you're lucky, but we're talking something that size. That's big for the time.
Do you think modern reenactment Seaxes are too big for them?
Yep, I think we go over the top. Everybody wants the bling, don't they?
Well, of course so. You know, you want the big Seax and the big shiny sword.
There was only one guy I knew.
Look at the comments.
There's only one guy I knew who wanted to stay as a peasant. and he looked really effective.
So I've got a comment here from Brian Kettleran. Hi everyone, and this is
Hi.
awesome. So hello Brian.
Hello there, Brian. Good to hear from you, mate. What can we do for you?
Or we'll just keep talking. I'll come back.
Yeah,
on
okay. But as I say, today, the good thing about reenactment, not just Vikings, but American Civil War, Second World War, whatever you're doing, is people research and try and get it as authentic as possible.
Yes.
I mean, I can't speak for the American Civil War. Bragi's your guy for that.
Well, you get two sorts of reenactors in the Civil War. You get what you call your Farbies, which will camp in a modern tent or camp in an authentic tent but have all modern stuff inside. And then you get what you call your hardcore reenactors, and those are the guys like me who would have everything authentic, from your underwear down to your little Bible in your bag, and your rations you'll be eating will be authentic. You'll be having your salt pork and your hardtack for breakfast. Hardtack porridge is lovely.
Never had it, but I know what you mean. I mean, I'll be honest, I had a nylon tent because I couldn't afford it, and a new one, but
Yeah.
you used to see on sites and they looked brilliant. People would invest in reenactment authentic tents, and I think one of them even had an authentic bed in it.
Oh yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's it. I couldn't afford these things, but at the same time, you try to be as authentic as possible. I mean, obviously, you can't go 100% because I don't know about you. I don't want stomach parasites and fleas.
Well, no.
I certainly don't want to kill people or be killed. But I do remember one time, I forget where it was down south, we were actually doing a reenactment battle in these earthworks that the Saxons had, and I was laying there feigning death, and it was raining. It was really heavy rain, and I was drowning, so I went, I looked like a whale spurting out water, but
I think you're more of a walrus than a whale.
well, I had to do that. I either had to do that or drown. But I'll tell you something. I have had some fantastic times. Because when we did this, I was on the dole. I was unemployed. And I used to go away Friday night. And I wasn't unemployed. I was Egil the warrior. And Friday night, go and get blasted on cheap cider. Wake up next morning, feeling rough. Have some coffee. Make some coffee for my old pal. And Tyrkir.
Hello there, Graham.
Yo.
You're watching, you never know. You're probably at work.
Well, you stay safe, mate.
And let's not forget Njal Sigmundsson as
Yeah,
well.
again, Neil, you stay safe, mate. I know you're travelling around the country.
Two local Vikings.
Yeah.
Because we all know who. I think most people don't know who Njal is because he's not done many videos on the channel.
Yeah.
But most people know Tyrkir,
Well, yeah.
or Tyrkir as you call him.
Oh, well, type in.
Well, that's another thing about how do you pronounce these names, because you're not there back in the times, so it's hard to understand how you pronounce these names.
That's interesting because, I mean, I was a member of Regular Anglorum. It's diminished somewhat from what it was. But having said that, you would have people who would look into it. And yeah, they get it wrong sometimes, but you know.
I watched a brilliant video the other day. It was from Simon Roper.
All right.
And Simon Roper is he's a youth, you know, he's in his early 20s, I'd say, and he's doing a degree studying languages. So he can speak the different dialects of Anglo-Saxon. But he was having a conversation in Old English with Dr. Jackson Crawford from America. You know, the cowboy Norse man he teaches people how to speak Norse, and he was talking Norse, and Simon was talking Anglo-Saxon, and that was brilliant. Go and check that out, guys.
I remember seeing a program with Alan Davis of all people.
Oh yeah.
And he went to Holland.
Yeah.
And was taught phrases of Old English, and they understood what he said.
Yes, you can see that.
Yeah. I mean, certain words we can think. It's like where we are today's Derby. In the Norse times, it was Derby. I don't know whether I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but that's how we were told it. So again, you know, English is a many-faceted thing. You know, you got Latin, Roman, Saxon, Norse, and Frankish. And it's dynamic because I remember there's an advert on television talking about washing powder. Now, she was talking about, I put this tea. Well, to me, it means t-shirt. Tea is something you drink, but language moves on. And when I was at university, somebody said it's like a meteorite going through space. Bits would fall off and go into space and be lost. Other bits would fall off and come back on it. And other bits would adhere from elsewhere. And I think that was a good analogy. Thank you, Dr. Mighton, who explained this. And when you look at it, I mean, to the average Victorian, we must seem unintelligible. And to the Georgians, good grief.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's just the way language is. And now you've got the hip-hop culture, which is obviously popular, times move on, and the language they use is shortened, abbreviated.
Oh, yes. I mean, slang is a fascinating subject on its own.
Yeah.
And would Vikings have slang?
Oh, yeah, I mean...
A slang a new thing or an old thing?
I think the one thing I read, and there was also, I think it was, it's not Egil Saga, but they were building this massive longship.
Yes.
And it was a rude thing, because they said they called him Smoothing Strug because of his carpentry. No, it wasn't. I think we all know what he meant by Smoothing Strug.
Say no more.
Yeah. And also, there was the grave in Denmark where they spoke about a guy nicknamed Juicehead. And they said it was because he sucked juice. No, it's because he was drunk all the time. You know, they gave each other nicknames and maybe funny, you know, things like that. So, Juicehead, you know.
You think they would have gone into battle a bit merry? If he had some, you know, a bit of some
I know
mead?
I would. I know I would want to be.
I know in the modern reenactment that's very frowned upon today, and,
Yeah,
and definitely a wise thing not to drink before a battle.
Yeah, but if
I
you're
mean,
gonna...
admittedly, we've both done that, haven't we? I've certainly done that.
Well, I haven't. I wouldn't do that ever. Afterwards, yeah.
I can recall being in a pub in the 90s a few times when the battle started, and there we were all drinking a few pints of bitter. Oh, what's that noise? Oh, it's the battle. Oh, cannons are going off. Oh, we best get up there. Drink your last pint of beer. Go and grab your musket. This was the old days in the early 90s when it wasn't so regulated, but today it's frowned upon and you shouldn't do it.
I remember I had a couple of pints of this massive reenactment where you got all periods. And this guy came in, he was dressed as an arson. And he looked at me and I thought, I'm going to have you. They had to hold me back because they did a parade and there were various periods. And the Nazis came on and nobody said anything. I went, and he sort of shriveled. Then I said, I'm coming back next year as a Russian partisan.
There's a very good German reenactment group based in Leicester.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I just had too much to drink and they're in character.
A friend of mine, Goober, he does World War II German.
Yeah.
What man doing American or British? Again.
Yeah.
And a mate of mine, he does the, you know those people that went round saving all the treasures? He reenacts that.
Well, I mean,
I forget what we're calling them now.
I'd like to do the First World War, but I'm too old. I'd have to be a general at my age.
Well, you're pretty good as a general.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is you'll be 3 miles behind the line.
Yeah, that's it.
With your wife's dog.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't be able to have a beautiful short magazine Lee Enfield.
So
My favourite rifle.
Whenever you mention World War I just get Blackadder in my mind. What a brilliant series that was.
Yeah, but it's nothing.
Look at the comments.
Yeah. They damned Field Marshal Haig and he was more sinned against than sinning. Lloyd George is the one who caused the problems.
And Brian says, hi Bragi and Egil.
Hi. How you doing, matey? Hope you're staying safe. Hope you're staying safe.
Safe as you can.
Especially with a mouthful of ice cube. Yeah. As I say, things are lightening up here. But let's not get cavalier about it. They're on about they may carry on because of this new variant. But now I've had the AstraZeneca, so...
You're safe. Well done.
Well, I'm an oldie, aren't I?
Well, you definitely need it if you're old. But let's, how would they have coped with a pandemic in the Dark Ages?
You just died.
Would they have known a pandemic if one happened?
Well, to be honest with you, life was so short anyway. I mean, Egil Skallagrimsson was the exception. He lived till he was 90, but he was blind, and he also had Paget's disease. That was an excess of bone in his head. It's rumoured that Snorri Sturluson, his descendant, found his skull, and shows how much he liked his relative. He put the skull on a gatepost and hit it with an axe. Didn't smash it, it just went white. But I mean, you didn't live very long anyway. 30 was old.
So we'd be probably old in those days. Well, you would be, and I would be.
I'd be decrepit.
I mean, I'm in my 40s, and I'll be very old.
I'm in my 60s. Don't be fooled by my apple cheek.
Do you think you said earlier, Egil the warrior, and you now Egil the YouTube rising star. Do you think you could be the most famous Egil on YouTube?
Well, I'm hoping so.
And TikTok, don't forget TikTok.
Oh, TikTok. But I wouldn't mind it. But let us know. Hey, that's.
So you ought to be famous.
Well, I'm what I call semi-famous. If you go around
I'm
Derby.
infamous.
Well, if I go around Derby, it's amazing that people say hello. And I have a memory like a sieve.
Yeah.
If you ever do meet me, don't be upset. I remember faces, but names I'm hopeless at. Isn't that right, Steve?
Yes, Dave.
I can remember faces, but I can never remember names.
What's the secret to comedy?
Timing.
Timing.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I enjoy reenactments. My main period, obviously, is the Viking, but I love the First World War, which is, as I say, my other hobby is medal collecting.
Well, I did put a poll out a few months back about alternative history content, and basically the approval was yes. So if you wanted to sit and talk about World War One or something in World War Two, and we could have it as a extra historical video on a Sunday, alternative history day, then that's something we're going to do in the future, I think.
Well, to me, I collect medals. It's not, yes, you have to pay a lot for them.
Well, you do.
But it's the history. We're talking about people's lives. And yeah, everybody wants VCs and all this lot. You know, there's a thing in England called the Defence Medal. And people say, oh yeah, Home Guard and all that. Well, my Uncle Les was a fireman in the London Blitz. And that's what medal he got. Each medal tells a story. And we owe it to those people to tell their story. Obviously, we're not going to stop wars, but they deserve recognition. People went through hell for these, and they deserve a voice.
I watched a very good film the other day. It was on Amazon, you could say, and it was called The Last Post. It was
I know it, yeah.
It was about this base in Afghanistan.
Oh, right.
And the unit that defended this base from the Taliban is one of the most highest decorated units in that war. And there was 2 living Medal of Honours in that unit.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a really good movie. I often watch the film and I start watching the film and I get very bored very easily, but I watched that film all the way through, so you know it's a good film.
Well, this is it. I mean, these medals tell a story. It amazes me with medals how we justify failure, because war is failure. There's no other way about it. And I'd love to have a museum with this is the result of failure. How we justify our wrong actions, because war is wrong. I'm not a peace-loving hippie.
Well, it just demonstrates how uncivilized we are as a nation and a planet. That we're still warring.
Well, I mean, I was in the Territorial Army. I was proud of it and still am. And I trained for war and to kill people. They give you a rifle. The rifle isn't to take pot shots at targets, it's to kill people. And one thing, I think everybody should fire a high-powered rifle at least once. Because when you fire it and you feel that kick, you know exactly what it's for.
There has been a trending video on YouTube very recently of I think he called Kentucky Ballistics, and he was firing a 50 caliber rifle, but it exploded, right? And basically had a massive cut on his neck, and he was very close to dying, and he talked about it. That was a fascinating video, and it showed you in slow motion how it exploded on him.
Yeah.
It's a very strange rifle because it had a screw back where you screw it on, and I think that's one of the, to me, that's very, very dodgy in my mind.
Probably
because a screw thread can only hold so much pressure, and basically the thing blew off, and the rifle exploded on him, and it was very lucky. I mean, it was that close to dying. I urge you guys to go and watch that video.
What I find amazing is
there's millions of views on it.
Talking of 50 cal, there was a British soldier who, with the sniper's rifle, 50 cal, killed 3 people about a mile away. I mean, that's good shooting. I mean, a 50 cal bullet would be about the size of that finger, and you know, it's crazy. And one of the weird things about warfare is the advances in things like medicine, plastic surgery from the Second World War.
Well, it started in the Civil War.
Yeah.
And they say the advancements of the Civil War was in comparison with the Romans. So in between that time and the American Civil War, there was a massive gap where medicine did not really develop too much. Certainly in the medieval ages it developed.
Well, one of the things the Romans did, say, got a massive cut there. They would have silver staples.
Yeah.
And they found that silver was hypoenergelic. What was in that room?
Rum.
And basically it would heal, and then they just snip the silver things and pull them out.
That is the way we live around here. Rum every day.
And
keeps COVID away.
What is surprising is that medical techniques until about the late 18th century were based on Galen, the Roman physician, and he started off at the Roman arenas patching up gladiators, and you talk about the humours and things like that. But history's fascinating. I love it. And the thing about history, people forget it's what people at the time are trying to say. Let me illustrate that. If you look at archaeology videos in the 60s, Sir Mortimer Wheeler was there, and it's all about the power of Rome, how they civilized the Britons. You go back to the Victorians, the Vikings were seen as strong, travelling around and travellers. And now, well, in the 70s they were a bit dodgy, didn't want to know. Now we're sort of balancing up, and it's the same with the First World War. I've got books from 1920, and it's a reasonably balanced thing. Then you look in the 60s and you have what can only politely be described as left-wing ideology, and it was fashionable to bash the generals. Oh, they were murderers, blah blah blah. And now it's coming, we're looking at it again. I'm reading a book by Terrain about Field Marshal Haig, who I've always said is more sinned against than sinning. His problem is he didn't speak up for himself and just did his best. And it's a war where people just got slaughtered. Tactics hadn't caught up with the machinery. I mean, most casualties were artillery, but you imagine a 303 rifle or a Mauser, tremendous range and hitting power. I've got bits of shrapnel at home which are huge, bits of shell flying around, and then you've got gas. I've got the exploder device, the German gas shot, it's quite safe. And I've got shells which have got shrapnel in them and have exploded. And this is thick steel, and this is whizzing around. So no wonder people went mad. It's the craziest thing we've ever done. We glorify it, and it was sort of, it's weird, isn't it?
Oh yeah, they say that the measure of humanity's intelligence is how quickly we can kill each other. And we can do it very quickly now, with the press of a button.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy times.
Well, I remember when I was in the TA, That was 1980.
Do you want to explain what the TA is for anybody that's not English?
It's the Territorial Army. In America, it'd be like
National
the
Guard.
National Guard. And our time in a battle, this is 1980, we were reckoned 10 minutes. And you think after 10 minutes, you're living on borrowed time. And I could see what they mean. It's
My Civil War regiment are now in the National Guard in New York. And I always find it amazing the fact that if you go to Brooklyn to the army, you'll find a National Guardsman on guard. They've been out there ever since the 1870s when they got made a National Guard.
well, as I say, with the Territorial Army, we had to, you know, the regular army goes in, fights, then the Territorial Army comes up. A number of my pals who are in it have been to Afghanistan, you know, Iraq, even Northern Ireland at one point, and various other areas of conflict. And it's sort of a stopgap. You imagine the war, regulars, TAs going like the First War, and then you start recruiting from civilians.
Now, you know, talking about more of a recent news story, we don't often do politics or news stories on this channel. What are your thoughts about how they've been prosecuting some of these soldiers because of Northern Ireland? It's a very complicated subject, isn't it?
It is a very complex subject. The soldiers are doing what they are told, what they are ordered. Now, I don't want to offend our Irish friends, but at the same time, when you're given an order in the army, you follow it through. Technically, you could be in prison, or in wartime, you could be shot. End of. Now, I know that sounds like the excuse the Nazis gave. Now, one man's patriot is another man's rebel. And I was on the side of Her Majesty's Armed Forces, and if I'm told to shoot that person, that's what you've got to do. It's a horrible thing to admit. I make no apologies for it, and I hope those guys, they did their bit, and they were targets on both sides. It was a lose-lose situation.
I know I got reenactment friends who served in Northern Ireland, and when you're sitting around the campfire at 1 in the morning and they tell you some of these horrifying stories, which I couldn't really repeat on camera, it really does open your eyes up to what they went through. But you've got to think about both sides, you know, and it's daft really.
Well, I
Let's
know
just learn as a humanity not to war each other.
when it's in Ireland, I was told the Catholics, you knew you're all right because they hated you. But you go to Protestant, they could never accept a cup of tea because the sugar would have glass in it. And that's the kind of thing, you know, it's like if a bomb went off, they'd let the dogs out so that the remains of soldiers would get eaten by the dogs. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. And, you know, I'm not here to argue whether we should be there or shouldn't be there. The fact is we were there. I've been to Southern Ireland and it's an amazing place. The people are wonderful.
Oh yes, definitely.
I had a great time there.
There's a really good movie called, it's about, what's it called? It's going around Ireland with a fridge, something like that. It's about this guy who was given a challenge or a bet that he couldn't carry a fridge and hitchhike all the way to Ireland. It's a really, really good movie. I can't remember the name of the guy who did it. It'll come back to me.
I loved going to Southern
movie.
Ireland. It's like I wanted an ice cream, so I had to go to the blacksmith shop. And there was a supermarket and a pub. And what they'd done is they smashed a hole, literally smashed a hole through to the pub. And this lass was going around with a shopping and a pint of Guinness. They are extremely civilised. One thing, never ask for chips in Ireland. And they do a wonderful thing. It's a ball of mashed potato.
Oh,
They drop it in hot fat.
never had that.
And it's a lovely hard case of creamy mashed potato. And the fish, it's nudo.
I was on TikTok the other day and I saw this 1 minute video of, I don't know whether it was a real bank robbery in Ireland or like one of these people that, you know, they set up to film it. But these guys came out of this bank in balaclavas and they escaped on a tractor.
Yeah.
Let's look at the comments.
Ireland's a lovely place and the people there are fantastic. I was lucky enough to go to Clos MacNoise, which is a big town.
Rob Napier, it says Tony Hawk, round Ireland with a fridge.
All right, Rob, how you doing, pal?
And we've got a comment here from Phoebe Graveyard. Hello from
Phoebe.
Nova Scotia, boys.
Whoa, hi.
Rob Napier says, and hello, folks.
Yeah.
Now Rob says, I would normally use my laptop, but it's not. I can't get signal. But when the guy's at the range, let's go with the rifles. And the noise is shocking when sustained, and it ain't military trained.
I know what he means, actually. I mean, we were issued with ear defenders. The SLR 762, it's a self-loading rifle, it's out of date now. When you were on the range in Lichfield, they had corrugated booth.
Yeah.
By God,
I can imagine.
Your ears would crack.
You must go through some rounds each year.
Well, when just after the Falklands War, we went through 100,000 rounds in a weekend, and there was a valley, and it was like fog. And the thing was, my clothes were covered in the smell of the RDX, Research Development Explosive, cordite, and you get high on it, you really do. I mean, I wanted to go out and...
Oh, let's get some.
Yeah. No, trust me. You carry it comes in like an orange box. You drop it and it falls open. That's because the Samwana in the Zulu War, they had to unscrew the tops, and that's how they got.
I think that's an interesting point. The smell of warfare.
Oh, I guess you.
I mean, certainly in the black powder times, you can definitely smell the black powder and the sulphur in the air. But what would have been the smell in the Dark Ages? Would it just been stinky people because they don't wash very often?
Blood.
Just blood smell.
Yeah, copper. I mean, you imagine you get into a frenzy, you're scared, no matter who you are, and you're wearing a male shirt, and you're covered in blood. It could be yours, it could be other people, but you're psyched up. Yeah, I mean, they're busy shouting abuse at each other.
I mean, you can understand why people will go berserk because of the energy from a battle.
Well, also, they allegedly, I don't know whether this is true, they had mushrooms at certain times.
Allegedly.
They had something to hype them up.
I think Roland did that. Was it Roland from Maggie and Glorum in that TV series?
Interesting thing. Roland, I saw him in the medieval crew. He was on telly.
Yeah.
I think it was a catapult they were using.
So explain who he is.
Roland is a splendid guy if you're watching.
What's his last name?
I've forgotten, but he's got curly hair. He was quite high up in Regia, and unfortunately the boss Kim Sivan died. Really nice guy, a beautiful accent. I love the Bristol accent. And
can you do a Bristol accent?
No. A friend of mine, she's from Bristol. Lovely lady. If you're watching Mel, they've got like a burr on certain voices, and I just love it. I find it really sexy. But this guy Roland was so skilled. He made this ring I'm wearing out of business cards and such. He used to make the most beautiful jewellery. He made a gaming pack, and it was where you had 6 dice. It was actually banned at one point in the Viking Age because people lost so much.
What? In reenactment, you mean?
No, in reality.
Oh, reality.
Yeah, people were losing estates over it.
Makes you think, how old is gambling?
Gambling goes way, way back. I bet you the caveman would bet on how quick that spider would get down the wall or whatever.
Well, you've got to do something in the boredom at night, I suppose.
I think they found other ways, that's why we're here. But, you know, that's an interesting thing, you know, when you look not just at the warfare, but the pastimes. How would you personally pass the time? You know, you're reasonably well off, you're eating okay, your lands are secure, your family's okay, what do you do?
Well, I don't think you had time to sit around in those days like we do. We always got things to repair, or jobs to do, or your borders to repair and fields to sow.
Well, the more important thing is women are always busy. They're spinning, they're telling tales, they're cooking. They're doing a lot of things that we tend to forget about. And We all think that Viking women were shrinking violets. They were not. They ran the house, and they would have 3 keys: key to the house, key to the food, and the key to the money.
So there was a box with the food, was there?
Oh, they'd
Or
have
cupboard.
like a chest. You know the chest you got off Tyrkir?
Yeah.
Imagine that with the foodstuffs in. The king himself came and she said, he's not coming in. That was it.
There'd be no food left if the king came.
And also, he was misbehaved, male, children, or whatever. If you misbehave, you get a ladle around your head. They're responsible for medicine, the history of the family, and they would teach the girls how to deal with men. You know, they were also known as peace weavers. You get 2 blokes, had a bit too much to drink, too much testosterone, and she'd just go, oi, calm down, you two. And they'd party. And hopefully.
Well, look at the part women played in the old thing, you know.
Well,
would you say that Viking society was sexist? I wouldn't.
it was different.
It's difficult to compare that society to ours, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
we don't live in it.
A woman could represent herself so long as it was no more than 2 ounces silver. If you're a widow, people would chase after you because you could run a farm, and also if you got red hair. Red hair was looked on as something special. People today, and they shouldn't do this, mock people with red hair. I think red hair looks great.
Oh yeah, I think it's stunning on a lady.
And let's not forget, Thor himself has red hair, and I wouldn't take the Michael out of him.
One of my favourite channels recently I've been watching is a guy called Alex Belfield. Hello Mush. And he's a ginger man from Nottingham, and he's been treated terribly by the BBC. They've actually hounded him, and the police are being onto him, and he's being raided illegally and everything. It's all on camera, and it's about to come out as a really massive scandal, I think. The BBC have been appalling recently.
Was it because he's red-headed?
No, because he's one of the people that speak out about the BBC, and he's a whistleblower.
Alright.
And you know, they've tried to touch him up of everything, and people just created lies about him.
I'm going to say that's a bit rough. I mean, I have heard people, because they've got red hair, and it's wrong. You wouldn't go to somebody and say, because you're black, I'm picking on it. Though you did do it in the past, yes. You wouldn't dare do it now. So you wouldn't go to somebody and say, oh, you're disabled. No. So why would you go to somebody and say, you got red hair, what's next? People who are left-handed like me, yeah, come on, bring it on. You know, I can dish it out as well as give it, take it. But you shouldn't pick on anybody because they're different.
Well, bullying is an awful thing, and we condone bullying on this channel.
No.
And we have talked about it before, and we will cover the subject again. And I've been bullied in my life, and some of my friends have, and it's terrible, you know.
People have
bullying
tried.
is a cowardly act.
Yeah, some have tried.
Yeah, well, they try. I'm thick-skinned, so it just bounces off me, you know.
That's how I stopped it.
Well, yeah, well.
Kick 7 bells out of
Well,
it.
that doesn't always work though, in, you know.
No.
Especially in the day where, you know, you got to touch somebody and you're in trouble.
No, well, I'm not a touchy-feely person. It's one thing my father never taught me. It was a bit like a cross between Captain Mannering and God, my dad.
What do you think? Bullying's an old thing as well.
Yeah, it's an awful thing.
Yeah.
It causes so much problems.
And would they have known bullying to be bullying in those days?
Well, I mean, there was, in Egil's Saga, there's, what's it called? Yeah, what's it called? Berserker.
Oh, Ljot.
And he
Berserker. He was a bully.
Causing problems, challenging people, and making sure it was a form of extortion.
We had that story on the channel from the old Sigma's, and actually tried, because I edited it recently in 4K. We edited it for him.
Egil's kicked 7 bells out of you know what out of him.
I've not riveted these on yet. I'm going to do these on camera soon. We're going to demonstrate riveting how you would rivet a spear onto a spear shaft.
No, a frog would do it, don't you?
What?
Rivet.
Yeah, and this is just a...
come out with them,
this is a shaft from a sun lounger. You know those things you get on the beach? They're really good actually.
I always remember when I first joined regular, my spear got hardwood ramming.
Yeah.
And I had to go all the way to Aller Street, quite a way out. And I did it and I decorated it and then they banned it. That was one of the things that I used to, not me, but everyone else as well. You know, you can't have this. Why? Because it's not in the book. And I remember taking great pleasure. They said you couldn't have black material. Well, I was digging in York and I found black herringbone from that period.
Oh, we've gone past our 30 minutes.
All right. Well, we were rambling on about all sorts, haven't we? But then they said you couldn't have riveted belts, buckles, and I happened to find the buckle with 2 bits of brass and rivets through it.
So they basically said that you couldn't have a buckle riveted onto you. That's ridiculous.
That was at one time. Because I said to the authenticity officer, I've got a degree in history and archaeology from York. What do I know? You've read the Lady Bird Book of Vikings.
I mean, how I was meant to stay on there by magic.
They're supposed to sew it on.
Well,
They were saying, oh, and I said, well, how do you account for monks who wore black robes?
I can understand it if you've got a shortage of metal and you don't have the rivets, yes.
Well, I found it was a buckle. You know the bits that you wrap around the buckle attached to the belt?
Yeah.
That had rotted and it was sort of like that and you could see the rivets.
Yeah, well, I think that'd be another thing we'll look to buy in the future is a boat, and we'll make a boat up on camera.
Oh. Yeah,
you could do with a second one, couldn't you?
Well, I mean, this is my grandfather's Freemason's belt. It's an old army belt from the 1880s.
Yeah.
But I wanted my grandpa represented.
We'll have to treat it with some leather stuff soon.
Oh, nice.
Give it a nice oil.
You think that must be going on 100 years or more. But that was the one thing that used to wind me up with, you know, when I was in there. They would sell you a piece of kit and then say, oh, it's not authentic. Well, why the hell did you sell it there?
Well, certainly some dye colours like black will be very hard to sustain, and I don't think you could ever get pure black.
Oh,
it's very difficult to get pure black.
If you're wearing brown leather, natural coloured leather, and you're wearing it day in, day out, it's going to go black or
one thing people always forget and never talk about is the fact that your clothes fade.
Yeah.
You know, you look at some of the Union jackets, which are dark blue. By the time you've been in 5 months in, you know, campaigning, it would be a purple colour.
Well, they'd patch it with bits of sacking like the British soldiers did in India. Yeah, you had one set of clothing, and then they'd patch it with bits of sacking. You know, they'd take Lyle sugar on it and things like that. The thing is, you'd have the same tunic, and I don't know if this is the same with you guys, you'd have the same tunic in England that you would wear in India, so you'd be sweating like crazy.
Now, as a Viking, would you have spare tunics, or would you just have one set of clothing?
Depends on how much money you've got. I mean, you think...
And we're very wealthy because we've got 5 or 6 set seats.
But you imagine even having an underskirt, how much thread is in that?
Yes.
How much...
Miles.
I mean, you know, and was it something like 3 miles of thread in a tunic?
I think it's 13 or something like that.
It's like if you go from here to Hina, you might get the same thread, and it's all got to be done by hand.
What explain what Hina is?
Sorry, Hina's a town about 10 miles away. I
mean, people might think it's a god.
People in Hina may well think that. I was right near where I went to school. It's got a nice Norman church.
Ah, yes. We'll have to go round and film some churches. I never did hear from the local church when I sent them a message.
Probably there's reasons why, which I'm not going into on camera. Okay, so, you know.
Any questions we can talk about before we do finish? Or we can carry on live streaming all day if you like.
What's any questions?
I'm going to have a look. I can't get a signal on my tablet.
Oh dear.
We've got 2 people watching and 9 likes. That's wonderful.
That's fantastic. Hi.
So I've got a comment here. It's from Phoebe Graveyard.
Hi Phoebe.
It is my understanding that although Viking society was sexist, it was less than Anglo-Saxon society.
It was different.
Women had the rights of property, divorce, and if needed, the wrong mushrooms could be served forth.
Oh yeah. I mean, the point is, unlike other societies, divorce was quite easy. There were a number of ways. You could say Bragi wants your wife wants to get rid of him. put on her frock, go to the market and go, I divorce thee, I divorce thee, I divorce thee. The funds are split between them. Any children there, the lady of the house looks after them, he pays for them. And there's no stigma attached. But in other ways, you know, the big thing they go on about is, oh, women didn't fight. Of course they did. Where do you, I can't pull my sleeve up enough, but there's that famous of a Valkyrie. And
Where did the idea of the Valkyries come from in the first place, you know?
oh, Queen Athelflaed, although she was a Saxon, she beat the 7 bells out of Viking. She, you know, and I'm sure she wasn't the only one. But
I can't really see Queen Athelflaed fighting myself.
you never know. I'll tell you, there is, it's around Eastern Europe. There's a tribe called the Pasalik.
All right, I've heard of them.
The Pasalik, for a time, about 200 years, the men stayed at home doing the cooking, and the women were buried with weapons, and they couldn't marry until they killed an enemy. Now, in the land they were buried in, permafrost, the bodies were perfectly preserved along with the clothing. And there was,
Wow.
we think she was a priestess, and there they all had a stag tattooed, and she had a headdress about a metre tall.
Wow.
She had a silk blouse made from rough silk, and she had
Luxury.
felt breeches.
Not even us. We don't even own silk.
She must have been about 30, but she was dressed in felt boots as well. But this is maybe where the idea of the Amazons came from. The women were buried with weapon sets, the men were buried with cooking pots. But it was apparently about 200 years it lasted. But they actually went to the body and went like that on it, and it was like that.
Yeah, well, you can understand that, yeah. Being frozen.
Another interesting point, they dug up a frozen body, the same thing, in China. It was a Celtic white guy with a big moustache and a plaid tunic.
Yeah, well, you have all these white bodies they found in America from skeletons,
Yeah.
which shouldn't really be there. And then there's a story about this Viking longship, which is meant to be in the desert somewhere, like in Nevada, or I can't quite remember. You go on YouTube and type in Viking longship in America. There's reports from the 19th century of these people saying a longship, and it's meant to have dragon heads on it. But one thing about that I don't understand is that, well, why would it have the dragon's heads on? It wouldn't do, because it wouldn't be fighting, wouldn't be going to raid anywhere. And I think it's more likely to be a boat from this 15th century.
I'd love them to find a longship in Australia. Now there's the Mexicans talk about blonde-haired devils.
Yeah, the Mexicans certainly talk about
Some
that.
of the Native American tribes, they've found Viking coins.
Well, let's face it, you know, you're leaving your nice home of Norway on a longship. You could end up anywhere in the sea, because the sea partly dictates where you travel because of the conditions, surely.
Well, logic says if you find a coastline, you want to find how far it goes.
Yeah.
You know, we never know. But makes a cracking good story, doesn't it?
Well, just going back to talking about women warriors, we often neglect and forget about one of the most famous British women warriors, Boadicea.
Boudica.
Yeah.
You. Queen Boudica.
Pronunciation.
Queen of the Iceni tribe, which is, I think it's Norfolk.
Norfolk way, yeah.
She was amazing. She had a just cause. Her husband had shared, was friends of the Romans. He died and left a part to the Romans, who decided to take it all. Boudica was flogged, her daughters raped. And that was the biggest mistake the Roman
Did.
Okay, she came second in the war, but she levelled London, Colchester and St Albans.
Londinium, as it was later called.
Well, if you go to Colchester today and you dig down, there's a layer of carbon, and it's called the Boudican level.
Yes.
What happened to her, we don't know.
The whole subject on its own.
I mean, there's been stories that she was buried under one of the platforms in London Station. She could have got killed in the battle. We don't know.
It's a great place, Colchester.
Yeah.
The castle is built on the remains of the Roman fort there.
My brother lived in Colchester.
Great museum, and it's also got some very nice bookshops. Egil.
Yeah, my brother lives in Colchester.
One day, if we ever travel further on the channel, we'll go and we'll do like a little town tour of it. Is it a town or city? I forget now.
City. There's the army base there as well.
Oh yes, famous one.
And I'll tell you another city worth visiting, and that's Canterbury.
Yeah, I don't think I've been there for a long time.
My grandpa, next to the cathedral, there's St John's Lodge, where my grandpa was preceptor of the treasures there. He'd been dead since about 63, and I mentioned it to these old ladies who giggled, and I thought, yep, you remember my grandpa. Hot as a $2 pistol he was. But there's a beautiful ice cream shop there just across, and a late friend of mine, Perry Prynne, lived there, and I had a holiday there, and it was great. Perry was descended from Orm the Great.
Oh right.
He was a lively chap, to say the least, and if you look in the 17th century, Bishop Prynne had his ears cropped and his tongue pierced, and the woodcut is a dead copy of my late mate, and I stayed with him because it was great. We were sitting on the butter market eating ice cream. I was looking at the ladies and he was looking at the lads. It swung both ways. But he was one of the best swordsmiths I've ever known, and he was one of the rare things. He was 5th dan in karate. He was a Shaolin priest. He studied in Australia because he was mixed race. He was Manx and something else. And he made the news because he used to go around in his bell-bottom jeans, flip-flops and no shirt. And these 3 guys attacked him. He put all 3 of them in hospital.
I speak or Egil, remember?
And my voice is going.
Have a drink.
I'm all right, thanks. What goes in's got to come out, you know what I'm saying? And he put him in hospital. He was taken to court, and he actually trained one of them to black belt in karate. And I miss him greatly. But an amazing guy. I've met some weird people, but they've been really good people.
Weird people are often the best people.
Yeah.
I'm definitely strange.
Oh.
People are strange when they're strangers.
Well,
Faces
I mean,
not ugly. In a way.
They've had people I've known have been quite fun guys. I mean, Roy, what a guy.
Well, we don't know who he is.
No.
Well, changing subject. As we are Vikings and meant to be talking about Vikings, let's talk about Viking toiletry, because we often don't talk about how they went to the toilet in those days. I mean, did they have a pit or outbuilding for it?
Viking lavatories are one of the most interesting things you can
Oh,
find.
let's listen
Now,
to this then.
I was lucky when I was at York to be taught stuff by the legendary Dr. Bone Jones. He is an amazing guy. He runs the education thing next to
York
York.
Archaeological Trust.
Well, it's the York Experience next
Right.
to York. And his speciality was poo. Now, don't poo, because we can learn so much.
You're getting very scatty now.
Now, and he taught me a lot about plants and what you eat. Certain things don't get digested. Tomato skins are today's favourite.
Sweet corn.
Sweet corn. And what we would find are coprolites, that's poo. And it's not long and smelly, it was like little balls of cement. There is the famous Lloyd's Bank turd, which is about yay long. I think it's in Warwick now. And
Lloyd's Bank.
it's called the Lloyd's Bank turd because it was found underneath the safe.
Oh right.
And Bone
But
made
not by robbers, was it?
Yeah, Bone made this mahogany stand with
Yeah.
a brass plaque. Who was going to present it to Lloyd's Bank, who politely decided not. Now that sounds weird. However, if you break down the substance. We found that there was a lot of bran in the diet, hence the length. There were parasite eggs, and he identified a curus, which is like a horrible tapeworm.
Yes.
Ordinary tapeworms. The curus comes from sheep's urine and polluted the water. Everybody had these things.
Oh yeah.
And the worms would come out of the mouth, the eyes, the ears, or the nose. But everybody had them.
Have you ever had worms yourself?
No.
I have when I've been foraging food.
Yeah.
Always wash your food.
Yeah. Anyway,
Not a pleasant experience.
they found a lot out, and I loved the session when we were doing the class. Bear in mind there are a lot of middle class and well-to-do ladies in there. And the first thing he said was, when you go to the lavatory, what isn't digested? And that's what. Oh, really? Anyway, I went, tomato skins, what else?
Sweet corn.
If you ever get the chance to see this guy, please do. He's been on Time Team and various other archaeological programs, and he is an amazing guy. And if you're watching, thanks, Bone. You made archaeology such fun, and you wouldn't think it, but he taught me so much.
And what would today's poo teach us? It's mostly recycled.
It's recycled, but
you know, missing something out for our
imagine
people.
if you're out in the wild and you do the Watusi, and eventually it would break down. The way when you find the coprolite, it's like concrete. What you do is put it in a bottle, you pour acid on it, and you screw the top. You wait, and you unscrew it and smell it. If it stinks to high heaven, it's human. One interesting thing we found with this, I love poo by the way, you find things like cherry stones, because you ate the whole thing. Apples were about yay big.
I mean, today you get an apple and you leave the core, but in those days I would have ate all that.
I eat all of them.
No, I don't.
Oh, I do. There's a way of eating it that you don't notice it. Anyway, by the by. And we found things like cherry stones have got teeth marks from mice on it. And
pruners.
All these things you could find animals have got at. Dog had chewed at it. And you think, eh. Well, everybody was hungry in those days, unless you were very well to do.
I just planted some Australian black cherry.
What we did find interesting was we did an excavation and we'd found a bone pit, and there was a badger skull that somebody had a go at eating. So it shows you how, because you imagine what you eat today, times that by 3, and you'd still be as thin as a rake, because it's one for the worm, one for you, one for the worm. And when you go to the lavatory, your tapeworm actually does pass with your fecal matter. And I saw we had a slideshow, it sounds weird, and there was this poor Indian boy, and he had a prolapse rectum.
Good dear.
There was literally the size of that.
Yeah.
With silver, and they were worms. And what apparently they used to, I don't know if they still do, they feed them raw sugar and it makes them eject. Now, prolapse rectum, they have to just push it back in. And this happened quite a lot in the Viking times as well. And we forget, we have a great health service.
Oh, we do?
Yeah. But I mean, if you go to Jorvik, there's a false kneecap. It's like an oval, like yay big copper, slits either side and was put round. There's also a leather...
What age did that date from then?
9th, 10th century.
Really?
And also there's a face mask with just holes. And can you imagine what the state of the person was who was wearing it? And you know, there's a foot bone with a bone growth like the size of a golf ball on it. And we forget about this sort of thing because there's cosmetic surgery, we have medicines. You know, it's very rare that people have worms. And fleas are another thing. Yeah.
If you go reenacting, you're most likely to catch a flea or get worms. If you're foraging for your food and you don't wash it.
I actually caught burrowing mites once.
Yeah. What are they like then?
Horrible. Little pink crab-like things,
Yeah.
that size of a head. They burrow into the flesh.
Yeah. Can't imagine that.
And I had this ointment until it dissolved them.
You know.
Just be careful who you go with, because that's how I got it.
And was sexual diseases around in the dark ages?
Possibly, yeah. I mean,
Would they have known about it though?
they wouldn't have cared. I don't. Well, if you got it, you got it.
You're not going to get rid of it, are you, very easily?
I don't know. I mean, better minds than mine would probably have evidence of this, but I mean, the thing was sexual things. You had your wife you loved, and you got your heirs from, you know, the descendants. Slave girls were there to be utilised for frustration and various other things. And if they died...
Slave men?
Well, who knows? I mean, being gay isn't a modern thing. It goes right the way.
Yes, well, it's one of those controversial subjects, but I was going to watch a video today about homosexuality in the Viking times. Not something I don't know a lot about, to be honest. What do you know?
Yeah, I know that in the 18th century,
Yes.
men dressed as women could be hanged.
Yeah?
We've got quite a bit on this. Women going with women was not frowned on. Now, in the 18th century, there were places called molly houses, and men would change their names. So you'd be called, I don't know, Pewter Poll
Yeah.
or Saucepan Susan, and you would have a ritual birthing. You'd dress as a woman, and you'd pull out things like bedpans, kettles, and that was, and you of course made sure that your name was fictitious, because if you were caught, and it was a brutal way, you know, they'd round you up and they'd hang you.
Couple of comments here. Just from Rob Napier. He says, "Okay, I'm leaving work later, guys."
Woof.
And Phoebe Graves Yard says, "Stay safe and healthy, lads."
Cheers. Same to you, babe. Well, you know, I mean, as I say, I mean, we talk about gay. That may be a term that's totally alien, because we know that on the long ships they had double sleeping bags.
Well, yes, they did, yes. I've always wanted to make one of them.
And let's face it, I bet there was a monk or two with watery eyes when they went raiding. And that's how it is, you know, some people do, some people don't.
Well, I was reading a very good book last year called Confederates in the Attic. And it's about this guy's experience learning about the Civil War. And he was going around meeting these various groups, like the widows of the Confederacy and you know, people like that. And he met some reenactors and he started reenacting with them. Because he wanted to learn about the Civil War. And these guys were what you call hardcore reenactors. So everything they took, you know, in the Civil War, they carried with them. And they didn't sleep in the tent, they just put blankets down and had a blanket on the floor and a blanket on the top. Well, it'd be a poncho on the floor if you'd not got one. Your blanket will get wet. And they'll basically spoon each other. So there'll be 12 men all spooning each other, because in America at night it gets very cold, and they'll give the command spoon right, and then they'll give the command spoon left, so they'll all change body position. And I find that quite fascinating, because in today's content, you know, if I was sharing a tent with you, I wouldn't really want to spoon with you, you know what I mean? But I find that fascinating in a way.
Do you think, imagine if they had a lot of beans? But the thing is, there's a carving of a thing called the Frank's casket. Yeah?
Yes, wonderful, wonderful thing.
If you look closely at a certain side, you will see a man raping another man.
Really?
Yeah. It's not obvious until you look, and it's obvious what they're doing. So, yeah, you know, who knows? Yeah. If anybody has any information on that sort of thing, we'd like to hear, because, you know, we know that Richard the Lionheart was gay.
Really?
Oh yeah,
I didn't know that.
oh by gum, yeah, he slept with the King of France. He was also, I mean, it's just the way things are, you know, and if that's what lights your candle, go for it, you know. But it would be nice if we could hear from some of our gay friends out there.
Oh yeah, I mean,
You know.
I've got some gay friends, wonderful people. I remember that guy in the bookshop. Oh yeah, what's his name?
I can't remember. Nigel, was it?
No, not Ian.
Ian. He's a smashing guy.
He was lovely, he was. There used to be a lovely bookshop in Derby called Deventio Bookshop. And he was a gay man, he used to work there. He used to have to chat me up, wind me up, and he would be laughing in the background.
Yeah.
Lovely man he was.
He used to write scripts for
he
Rod, Jane and Freddie.
He wrote all the music for them, yes.
Yeah.
Got that big spider.
Him. Yeah. He was a great guy. And unfortunately that went the way of always.
Deventio Bookshop.
Here's other one, you know the guy with specs?
Yes, the Skyfire man.
He's at Derby Eagle Centre.
I think he may have left, he's not been there for a while.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I've not been Eagle Centre for ages. It's a marketplace in Derby.
There was a bit of bad blood between them, but I liked him. He was a good guy. I always remember we used to have a guy in the TA, and you know you're supposed to call yes corporal, no corporal. He used to call my corporal a fruity bitch. And oh dear, he used to call Corporal Turnip. I mean, he took it in good faith and everything. Calling an NCO a fruity bitch is not good.
I think I watched this video from, I think it was like the Lads Army when they had all these youth join up. And one of them called Sarge, right? He said, right there's Sarge. And he says there's two sorts of Sarge in the army. There's a massage and a sausage. And if you call me Sarge, you basically call me, you know.
Yeah. Well,
that's such a funny clip.
That was ridiculous. I mean, you don't even dream of it sounding off to the Provost Marshal or the RSM, who's calling the Rasma. That pace stick, we had a guy and he was deliberately being stupid, and they say, move your left foot, and he wouldn't. So he got his pace stick and whacked him on the side of the head. So the side that hurts is the left. You know what? He never did it again. It's
a bit like that scene out of the movie Glory, when they had that Irish sergeant. He was like basically a sergeant specialising in drill, a drill sergeant. Yeah. And of course, in those days, people didn't know left and right. We take it for granted that we know left and we know right. You know, the Confederacy used to put hay on one foot and straw on the other. Hay straw.
Yeah, they got that from the British.
And this was about the 54th Massachusetts Regiment, the first black regiment that fought in the Civil War, and such courageous lads as they were. But you know, he was basically recruiting and teaching them march, and one of them getting his left foot right, so he smacked him on the back. This is your front, this is your back. Stamped him on his left foot, and of course, by the time he got to his right foot, he picked it up and thinking it's stamped on. Great scene that, and a really good movie. Denzel Washington's in that, and
is that the film where they're attacking this Confederate bastard?
Fort, yeah.
Yeah, brave lads.
And then terribly, people they got a monument to in America. And it's all been graffitied over.
You see, the thing I don't
disgusting
get is First War, Second War. The black guys, they proved they could fight in the Union.
Yeah.
And you know the flying the red tail.
Oh yes, a great movie that as well.
And in the trenches, and yet still they've got this stupid idea black men can't fight. You ask the South Wales borderers at Rorke's Drift where the black guys can fight, or the ones at Isonwana that didn't survive.
Well, that was the massive mistake the Confederacy made. They should have freed the slaves, and then the slaves would have fought for them, and then England would have backed the Confederacy. But because they didn't abandon slavery, that didn't happen.
Well, it's like in the post-war. I mean, we're talking First World War, Second World War. Yeah. And they're still the same. And you think, come on, man. Because that's how the Red Bull. And these guys were taking supplies, getting bombed and God knows what. You know, and courage to them.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean...
brave men.
Yeah. And to get slagged off about it, that's wrong. I mean, there was... It was like, I remember that, I can't remember his name, much to my shame. He was Eugene Ballard. He got the Croix de Guerre. He was an airman, and he fought the Germans and got several kills. And when America entered the war, you could apply to the USAF, as it was then, and you get a commissioner rank and everything. he applied and was turned down. I don't think he got his quad again till the 30s. And you think, come on. You know, let's put it this way, as one bloke told me, when you're on the street corners of Armagh and someone's trying to shoot you, you don't care what colour the person is who saves your life. And he's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you're together, that's how a regiment forms. You know?
A lot of the guys who was in the film Glory carried on reenacting afterwards.
Yeah.
And when we was in Gettysburg in 2001 for the 138th battle reenactment of Gettysburg, there was camp just above us.
Yeah.
We was all in dog tents on our own, and they all did medical corps. A lot of those guys were actually doctors and whatnot, and they looked after us really well. I mean, I had heat stroke, and those guys looked after me. So thank you for those guys looking after us, and such lovely people.
I remember we had a black guy in our company, and he always drove a 3-tonner. You could always tell his van, his lorry, because he had a great big pink feather on.
Nah.
Oh, what a guy. Garnet. If you're out there, Garnet.
I've not seen Bernard for a while.
Yeah.
Remember Bernard?
Yeah.
You're a lovely man he is.
Well, Garnet was
Barbadian.
great. Garnet was great fun.
Perhaps we'll do a live stream from Barbados one day. What do you reckon to that?
As long as I can be kept cool, like.
Yeah, well,
I'm not a hot weather
sunshade. You don't do hot weather, do you?
No.
It was a bit hot last night.
When you're short, fat, hairy. I didn't sleep at all last night. I got up at 3 o'clock this morning. Hence I've been texting early.
I was watching the Grand Prix at 3 o'clock this morning, to be honest. Oh, what a great Grand Prix it was. Oh, poor old Sebastian. I'm on about Verstappen.
Anyway, I got up and had a breakfast about 8 o'clock, and I was walking around town.
Yeah.
I shall be walking around town tomorrow. So I want to get some of my medals back, hopefully. That's if they're open. They're promising that they are saved up.
Who was the first people to issue medals?
Ancient Egyptians. They had bangles for generals, and then the Romans had them for campaigns. They'd have leather straps. And it was a bit like horse dresses.
Yes.
And
You see that?
there was actually a medal for Britain, believe it or not.
Was it?
You see the centurions, they have them all down here. You got medallions right up until about
1970s.
well, the 1870s.
Medallion man.
The first proper medal given to all ranks, and I have one.
Yeah.
It's the Waterloo Medal,
Oh, wow.
and that was issued by the Prince of Wales. So originally it was going to be copper, and he said no, they're all going to be silver. And I've got mine. And what happened with it is the part of the name is erased, the regiment, and that's because you had to wear your medal. And after the Battle of Waterloo, people were quite willing to flog them on. And say your second lieutenant had got one, and it's on an iron ring about yay big, and that rusted through. They lost the medal, so they bought the medal and had it erased.
At some point we'll go to some antique fair, but I want to buy the medals that my granddad had. Because when my granddad and my gran passed away, all the medals were split up in the family, and I think that's really wrong, really.
Is that Foresters?
No, he was in Bume. He was in Bume.
World War II.
World War II. He was
Yeah,
signalman.
You
You've seen his army records.
If you tell me where he came from, I can tell you exactly what ones you can get.
Yeah.
Because it was in Burma.
Yeah, Burma. It was in Burma.
That's about 15 quid for a Burma star.
Yeah.
He'll have 39.
Africa. He was in Africa.
Yeah, 3945 star.
Yeah.
Africa star. I don't know if he had a clasp or not.
No.
Then he'd have the Burma star, or did he go in Italy?
I don't think he went in Italy, but he was in Europe.
You can check up on the internet if you've got his number.
Yeah, we do have.
Check up on that, you can find his record of where he was. And then there's the war medal, red, white, and blue.
Yeah, I think I got 2 of them.
Yeah. If you
Out
show
of the
me what
5.
you've got, I can tell you what he's have.
Well, would it be in his army book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so long as you find out where he is, I can tell you what medals he'll have. Did he win any awards?
No.
No.
I don't think he was like a fighting soldier. He was a signalman. So
Oh, hey.
all soldiers, no matter what role you from the cook to the labour are all important, aren't they?
Well, that's the same with my collection. It's like, certain metal death plaques cost a lot. I said, well, I don't care. They gave their lives.
But of course so.
It don't matter whether you're
We shall remember them.
a guardsman or whether you're a cook.
Oh yeah.
They gave your life. You can't ask any more of a person
No.
than that. But I mean, my Uncle John, he was Western Desert. He was 3945 star, Africa star, first army class, Italy star, 3945 medal.
Oh yeah, we've been off on a tangent then. What about Vikings? Would they have issued some sort of, what was their equivalent of a medal? Or would there have been one? Probably not.
Go to a nunnery, raping the nuns and stealing the silver. Basically, they didn't have it.
No.
It was word fame.
Yes.
That's what they were about. They were the nearest they got the medals was taking Saxon coinage, and 9/10 of that was melted down.
But the amount of English coins found in Scandinavia is really incredible.
Well, another weird thing is the dirhams, the Arab dirhams.
Yes.
I had one on
I've got an original one upstairs.
I had one on a song.
Yeah.
And I lent it to Helen and I never got it back.
That's a thong as in a leather cord, not as a thong.
I keep quiet about that.
Yes.
But no, she was my girlfriend.
I'm going to buy one of those boat bikinis one day.
Mankini.
Mankini.
It's basically a posing pouch and thong, isn't it?
Yeah. Just get something down there stuffed. Now, if going back to marriage again, I know we do on these random live streams, we do talk about some random things. One day we're going to be really organised one day.
And put your specs on.
Yes, you can put your specs on if you want.
Don't want to walk out and forget them.
Yes. If we were back in the dark ages, would we be married?
What?
Because let's face it, dating and marriage in the modern world is a
Sorry, I
nightmare.
thought you meant me and you. I thought that.
No, not us. I
I'm
think
very flattered, but no, thank you.
no, not us.
Yeah.
I think, yeah. But would we have been married in the dark ages?
They
Because
would
let's face it, we're both single men in this modern world we live in.
You would have been handfasted.
Yes.
Now, imagine you got a rich daughter.
Yes.
I have a rich son.
Dossier in Anglo-Saxon.
And you and I would discuss a price, a
Yeah.
client price. And I would have to pay you a blood price for...
So how does it start? There's me.
You and me would go down the middle and
Yeah.
say, look,
I fancy your daughter. Let's call her Athelflaed.
and you'd say, well, look, you're wealthy. Now you would give a certain Morgan garbage for
Yes.
the morning gift.
Morning gift. Yes.
You'd give her, I don't know, argument's sake, 200 silver pennies, which is a lot.
Lost. Yeah.
Now, you then get handfasted. In pagan times, it would have been the father doing it.
So what is hand fasting? But explain that to camera.
Where you hold hands and ceremony's done. Eventually, the Christians came and they stand outside the church talking about, doing the part. Eventually, you go in the church, and the church took over. Now, divorce was easy enough as well. But the thing is, imagine, I describe it when I go around schools, is imagine you've got a beautiful looking present, you undo it, and it's a pair of socks.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, so you want to get divorced. Well, I've paid the bride's price, the Morgan Garber, I want that back. Okay, you do that, and then you divide everything in half except for the children, you go with the mother, and I pay for the privilege of that, and you get married again, no problems. And that's how it was. I think it's quite a civilised way.
Do you want a drink?
Yeah, we must be getting near.
You carry on for a little bit.
So anyway, Bragi's gone to get me a drink to lubricate the old throat. But as I say, this is a great thing. We cover a lot of subjects. We started out on the spear, I know, and we've gone through all kinds of history. But I think, to cover various parts of history, one of the, you talk about women's history, Judith Jesse's book on Anglo-Saxon women, an excellent read, very informative, and gets down to the nitty-gritty of it. And this is one of the things that I was lucky enough to do at York, was women's history. Now, history is actually meaning his story. And they used to call it her story. Okay, fair enough. But we overlook the role of women throughout history. Quite apart from the fact that if you didn't have women, we wouldn't have anybody to carry on. And it's well worth a look. You know, it was once said, a man who doesn't know from whence he came will remain a child. And it's the same with women. If you don't know where you're from, how are you going to get further? And it was Suetonius who said it, I remember, just in time. But it's the truth of it, you know. And it's interesting to look at various points in history. I mean, we talk about the Romans being so civilized. Well, technically, you could kill your wife for drinking wine. Weird. You know, whereas the so-called barbarian British women had, I wouldn't say equality, equality is a dangerous word. In as much, are we ever equal? I don't think so. Maybe you'd like to tell us what you think. But to me, we each have separate roles, and yes, they change from time to time. But equality? No, I don't know. Even today, we still get pay disputes. You know, and it's still traditional. Husband comes home from work, where's my dinner? Or who's done me washing? You know, and I'm not saying that's the norm. It's certainly improved, but you know, by and large, it's the women who look after the children. It's the women who have to bear them. It's the women who have to wipe the backsides of the children mostly. And you know, it's things like, oh, she's only a housewife. Excuse me, it's a very involved job. You know, you do a day's work, you come home. Well, your wife has done a whole day's work and it hasn't finished yet, not till you go to bed. I get a bit hot under the collar because I think women get our own due. But at the same time, you know, oh, thank you, very glad. Don't know what flavour this is, but here's to you out there. Stay safe. Oh, that's a bit alcoholic, isn't it?
Well, one of them's going to be full of rum and one of them's not.
Who are you, lad? I'll just be speaking about the role of women.
Because it's quite interesting that the rum ration only stopped in the 1970s.
I remember it. There was a big hoo-ha about it. I thought it was a bit bad.
And it's amazing that in the Navy they used to give you 8 pints of beer a day. Was it 8, I think, or 10?
Well, talking of the rum ration, my brother was in the Merchant Navy.
Yes.
He brought back a bottle of rum, Navy issue rum called 4 Bells. By God, it could strip paint off because they water it down. And it's that strong.
One of these is filled with rum and one's not. So I hope I got that one.
I think I've got it.
Yeah, I think I got it.
Oh, it tastes.
No, it's alright. This one's got it.
Is it Bacardi?
No, just generic rum.
Not Bacardi. I've got some rum. I'll tell you the truth. I bought some very cheap rum about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I took it out of the bottle into a decanter.
Yeah, this is from my decanter.
Yeah.
Pretty child.
And it so improves it by leaving it where the air can get to it. I had a bottle of it, but a certain Mr. F, who runs Derby Jail, drank most of it, but it's too rich.
Yeah, hello Richard Felix.
Oh.
We'll have to try to get him on camera one day, won't we?
He's ensconced to his farm. Apparently he's not growing his own anymore.
Not doing what?
He's not black-headed anymore.
Oh, he's gone grey.
Yeah, or white.
Might be all the ghosts he's seen.
Oh, that was run out of hair dye. Richard was a great guy. He was.
Just failure he is.
Richard Felix was my officer. He runs Derby Ghost Walks. And he appears on television.
Most Haunted he was on there.
Well, he left that and he was in various other historical programs.
Derek Cora. Because he passed away, hasn't he?
Yeah. Well, I knew Richard as Captain Felix when I was a mere private. He was well thought of.
Private Egil.
Yeah. And Crouch Stand is a very special site for the Lake Worcesters and Sherwood Foresters. It's a memorial to all the guys who died and to General Smith Dorian, who was a forester.
I have to go there for a day and go around the Crouch Tram Museum.
Oh, I've been there. I know the guy who runs that.
Have you been to the memorial down in Staffordshire?
No.
I've not
Well,
been to
anyway, by the by. I was there, and Richard, he was banner bearer, which was, they took the youngest and most promising subalterns, second lieutenants, and they could carry the standard. Well, Richard was one of them, standard bearer, that is, and he came back and he borrowed a sword which had gone through 2 world wars, and as he was walking along he disappeared down a sewer. The net result was his trousers had split from the bottom to the top, and this sword had bent like a fish hook. It's the first time I've seen an officer near to tears, because Richard tried to straighten it, snapped it. Now, though he'd gone through the First World War, the ravages of the Nazi Africa Corps, 10 minutes with Richard, it's gone. I mean, it wasn't his fault, it was an accident.
Accidents do happen.
Yeah, but I remember that as clear as day.
What are your thoughts on Rommel? Talking a random subject here.
Rommel,
Good or bad commander?
yeah, excellent commander.
Yeah, I'll give that.
Dodgy loyalty in my view, because when things were going well, he supported Hitler.
Yes.
He never was a member of the Nazi Party.
Right.
But he did all right. He started off as a lieutenant colonel and finished up as boss man, field marshal. However, look at the times he was away. When he was away, allegedly, with his wife, Montgomery came through at Alamein. Okay. He then got out there and was in Normandy. So he went home to celebrate his wife's birthday. Coincidentally, that's exactly when the Allies attacked. Now, I'm not saying he did it deliberately, but it seems a wee bit odd, do you not think?
I'm going to see who that is.
Yeah. But I don't know, but it does seem coincidental. And when things went wrong, I don't know how involved he was in the July plot, but it's a pity it failed, but there you go. So I'm just going to have a quick drink while I'm drying up here. It's old Bragi's going to go to visit the front door. Wow. It's got ears like a microphone, you can pick it up. I never heard it. But then again, I'm old. But yeah. So as I say, basically it's a beautiful day here in Bragi's garden. It goes on a lot further. But no, I'd like to hear from people what your opinions are. It'd be nice to hear from you, and we can react on whatever you come out with. I know we tend to ramble on, and I have rambled on quite a lot, but hey, that's show business, baby. It's jolly nice and civilised sitting out here.
Bit. It's not bad out here, is it?
No.
This is a bit of a new filming area. You've got a pond behind you.
Yeah, it's a new Techno.
Good, last time we filmed here, we had a duck on the pond.
Quackers. Have we got any more comments?
I'll have a look in a minute. I'll put that video out, that video about hunting.
Yeah.
Did quite well.
Well, as I said, I've been asking the people out there in TV land for any comments or any ideas they've got. I was talking about Rommel, the desert fox.
Yes.
I've
got some books on Rommel.
Yeah.
Including the one he wrote on tactics.
He was actually amazing. In the First War, he won the Pauli Meri, the Blue Max.
Oh, right. Yeah, I've heard of that.
When he was in Italy. Killed quite a few guys, but people surrendered to him in masses.
I mean, I don't like Nazis, but I do respect a hero, and in the sense of would you call him a hero? No, probably not. Probably the wrong term for him. But I respect a soldier, anti-hero, yeah.
I mean, von Manstein to me was the greatest tactician. Yes, he was an ardent Nazi at the time, most Germans were, and he actually retreated when they were on the retreat from Russia, managed to circle around and win a victory. He later on became a general in NATO, but he was a very skillful man. Fell out with Hitler quite a lot, which I understand was
I think that could be easily quite done.
Quite, like I say, it was an easy job.
Irritating little man, as my dad calls him.
He's only 5 foot.
Was he?
If you go to the Wax Museum in London, you'll find how small. I tell you, it's a weird thing. Napoleon,
Yeah,
very
he was small.
Hitler, very small. Stalin, very small.
Actually, Napoleon was a lot taller than what people think.
Yeah. And also, Stalin was very small. Mussolini wasn't what you'd call lanky.
I mean, Napoleon Hill was a great commander, in my opinion.
When you think about it, in the Second World War, this is someone who shakes you. Roosevelt liked his drink.
Yeah.
Churchill couldn't function really without a drink. Hitler was on more drugs than San Francisco hippies in the 60s.
Yeah, man.
Mussolini was
Just rubbish.
well, he just didn't care. He lost interest in it.
Mussolini was all about himself, wasn't he?
Well, you think about all these people, and they're running a war, and you think, my God, no wonder there's so many people died. But, yeah.
We don't really look at Italians the same way we look at Germans, do we?
Well, because they're split sides.
Yeah.
And, the Italians are not what you would call, well, no, that's unfair. They are. The Italian partisans were red hot.
Yes.
And I think what it was, they just didn't want to fight.
No.
They fought in the First World War and lost so many men. Then they were offered hope by Mussolini. He let them down badly. And, you know, I've been to Italy, trust me.
Lovely place.
Oh, yeah. I went to the cholera epidemic. So I went to go see the Colosseum, which was closed.
Epidemic. What's the difference between epidemic and a pandemic then?
Well, it was small. We've got cholera going. It's not unlike COVID. But I tell you what was a lovely place, was the Romagna, where the Tower of Pisa was. Because the one thing I really missed, and it really played with me, everywhere was brown. And we went to the Romagna and it was green. It could have been England. And there was this tower.
I've not seen that.
It's amazing. I never went up it.
Well, like northern Italy, Lake Garda and the Northern Lakes, and Sorrento. It's a lovely place.
I never went out far because shortly after I had an epileptic fit, and I had to come back home.
I've been trying to figure out whether my dad could go to Benidorm for a week. Well, I don't know. When you get on a plane, insurance.
Right, well,
I could do have a holiday. Not this year though.
Yeah, I was going to say I wouldn't bother this year.
Go to England somewhere. Go to Scotland.
Scotland's all right. What
Yeah.
I saw of it, I mean,
Wonderful place.
some pretty women in Scotland.
Some lovely trees in Scotland. Scots
Ice
pine.
cream, the ice cream in it is fantastic. Yeah, advertising. Go to Farm Foods, and their ice cream is Scottish, and it's just the same.
Creamy.
There used to be an Italian ice cream maker in Belper called Mick Mazza.
All right.
There was a prisoner of war who stayed on. And he married a lass called Mary, and the ice cream was gorgeous. He's dead now, bless him. And I found this ice cream from Scotland, and you think there's a lot of Italians in Scotland, and it's just the same. You really got to try it, man. It's gorgeous.
We've got some Scottish blood in our family, so here's to the Scots.
Okay. I'm actually a member. I was made an honorary member by Rob.
Yes,
of
the clan.
The Napier clan. Sans tache is without stain.
I mean, how do you think Culloden affected Scotland massively, didn't it, really?
Well, the delicious irony is my ancestors would probably have fought on the British side. But it was more a clan thing.
Yeah, it can be.
So I've got Ice Cube on me too. But, I mean, it was reprehensible how they treated the clans after Culloden.
Well, it definitely changed the way of life and forever.
Well, they slaughtered them, didn't they?
Right, we are going to end this in a minute. We've got nobody watching. So we'll start winding up. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we finish this live stream in 10 minutes?
There's nothing much up even talk
We were only meant to do it for 30 minutes. I lied on the title description. Sorry.
Must be at least an hour.
One day we'll come out and we'll do like a 6-hour live stream. What do you reckon?
We'll have plenty of water.
Well, we'll get a bucket of ice and some champagne and we'll go.
Yeah.
So I did the good stuff.
Very good champagne.
Yeah.
Tesco's.
No, why is it cheap?
Inexpensive.
No, I don't do inexpensive champagne.
Well, I like Bollinger.
Yeah. I'm not a massive fan.
My pal Anthony bought a crate of it.
Yeah.
And I remember sharing a bottle with Helen. If you're out there, Helen, give us a tinkle.
I don't think you should be watching.
I doubt it, no.
He said I doubt it there.
Notice I say nothing else. Look at that. Fly.
Hoverflies they are.
Yeah.
But you know, it makes you think how would your ancestors seen insects, you know? Would they welcome them into your house or...
I noticed them. There's too many mice and spiders.
You know, if a fly landed in your soup, in your broth, or you know... Yeah, you probably would do.
Interesting thing though, in the Saxon times and the Viking times, probably right through to about 19th century, if you found a spider and you cut yourself, you get the web and put it on,
yes,
stop the bleeding.
I've heard.
The thing that surprises people, you know, the first war you got wounded,
Yeah.
you got a thing called gas gangrene.
Yes.
The way they stopped that was to pack it with maggots. They would eat the pus and they excrete an antiseptic. And my late Aunt Lily was doing that in the Second World War.
I saw Michael Palin the other day. He was, I don't know, well I didn't see him personally, Egil. I don't actually know Michael Palin from, you know, the infamous comedian. But he was in Estonia and he was having leeches put on him as a treatment.
They do it today.
Oh, did it? Did it? You know, it was, I think, filmed a few years ago. I think it's one of the more modern series he's done. But,
well, you know when rugby players get cauliflower ears?
yeah.
They put a leech on it. And it doesn't stop it, but it helps to reduce it.
I watched a very good film the other day. It was a boxing film called The Contender. Very good film.
Was that with Marlon Brando?
No, it was a more modern film with this legendary boxing coach called, I can't remember his full name, but his first name's Mick. He's passed away now, rest in peace to him. Lovely film, really good, really good.
Look at the camera.
Yeah, look at the camera. But I never really understand what the cut man is in boxing, because when they get swelled face, they cut themselves. What is all that about? Do you understand that?
Yeah, because it swells up and blinds them.
Yeah.
So you slash it with a razor blade.
Yeah.
And you can see better.
It's really, it's
They
just
put Vaseline on it as well.
Yeah, it's just so strange, isn't it? You think, you know, you get injured, they're going to cut somebody to reduce that injury.
There's no way I could be a boxer. I mean, it's funny you should talk about boxing. I was watching not a history channel. I was watching about Joe Louis.
Yeah.
And this guy, you see the pictures of him. He's got muscles and he's spit. He's amazing. And he beat every single person there. But I mean, this was a time when racism was rampant. And this guy, I'll tell you, he was some guy. He married a white woman, which was amazing. But nobody could really beat him, and it was the authorities who were persecuting him because no other reason he was black.
So wrong, isn't it?
And in the end, he, you know, poor guy, he hadn't got a penny to his name.
Well, a lot of these famous people, like, you know, end up in poverty.
But he's still got his dignity.
Yes. But you can never take that away from a person, can you?
God, do you remember Muhammad Ali?
Yeah, what a fighter he was.
What a great guy he was. I mean, yeah, all right, it was his gimmick to, I'm the greatest, but he was what? He was the greatest.
Well, yes.
Same fight, you know, where they normally go like that, he would be down here and just skip away.
I watched the Foreman fight a few years back, and what a tense fight that was. And he was such a big guy, was Foreman, I mean, compared to Muhammad Ali.
But he could move, and he had a hell of a sense of humour. All right, he changed his name from Cassius Clay.
Yeah.
And that's up to him, you know. But he had such a sense of humour. I saw him on Parkinson's show. That's an interview with him. Guy who interviews personalities in England.
He does adverts now.
Jokes he came out with. And then the guy got senility. Is it senility? He got something wrong and he slurred his speech. And still, this guy went out and he inspired. You know, people are equal. And he inspired that. You know, and yeah.
That's one of the most wonderful things about life is inspirational people. I mean, like Christopher Lee, you know. Yeah. Not Christopher Lee, the guy who plays Superman. He got disabled, but he kept on fighting, didn't he, till his very end.
Yeah, I remember him.
I forget. I'm terrible with names.
Crazy. But yeah, I mean, in his wheelchair, he was paralysed from the neck down.
Yeah. I saw a very interesting video the other day where this man is a professor in robotics, and he's basically got motor neuron disease, and he's basically created this physical avatar of himself, and he's basically become a cyborg. Fascinating. It was an interview with Stephen Fry. It is such a fascinating thing.
I saw a bit of that. And also, you know, Stephen Hawking was amazing.
Yeah, another amazing man, yes.
I mean, he had to use his eyes in the end.
Yeah.
You know, but what a genius that guy was. And the
A Brief History of the Universe, wasn't it, you wrote?
Brief History of Time.
Time, that's it. Brilliant book.
Yeah, I've got it, but I've never read it.
So. No, it's worth reading over.
Yeah.
I've got it.
I got it from Oxfam. It's like the 70s book, The Naked Ape by Desmond Morris. Got it, but I haven't read it.
I mean, I've got so many books I've not read.
Same here. But I'm glad you've got them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I tend to pick books up more and just look at reference and, you know, look at the index.
Well, I'm reading about Phil Marshall Haig at the moment by John Terrain. It was written, ironically, written in the 60s, and it's a most unbiased account of Phil Marshall. I mean, you either into Lloyd George or you're not. I have to say I am not. It caused so many problems. You know, increased ammunition. A third of it only worked. People are dying today. There's on average about 3 French or Belgians who are killed disposing of shells, unexploded ordnance.
Well, look at that ship somewhere around the coast of England full of armaments. If it goes off, it's going to be a massive bang.
The one in London on the Thames.
It might be on the Thames. There's a few.
It's a bend in the river, and you've got the City of London and this ammo ship. The bomb disposal guys go down about once a month. Fortunately, it's kept cool. And, you know, if it heats up, goodbye the City of London. But, you know, there's also, I don't know where it is, an RAF bomb dump. They can't clear it. It's lethal. They've got all these bombs from World War II.
Madness, isn't it?
Well, you know, I mean, there was an ammo ship went up in Canada, and the village disappeared. You know, people were evaporated. It was that bad, and that was just one ammo ship. But yeah, you know.
Would you change your name to Egil Thorsson? Random question here.
We're going to get panned here. You could call me Simon. That's my Christian name. You could call me Egil, which is the Icelandic version of my name.
Yes, a different pronunciation from where you come from.
There's also Rune Egil, because of my other bits, and another name which I will never reveal to anyone, which is part of the magical name.
Well, it's a bit like when you got a totem animal. The totem animal will give you a name, but you're never meant to give that name to anybody or speak it aloud in company with people.
Yeah.
Disrespectful to the animal totem.
I've actually got 2 totem animals, but there you go. You'll see one of them in there.
Oh, in your trousers.
No, I'm
You're late,
on
I
my
know.
bare thigh.
Yes, one day we'll do that video with all Egil's tattoos as he's sitting in his demijohns pants.
Beauty, Egil.
Let's all see any more comments before we do go.
Yeah, we're about ready, aren't we?
Well, we do some more filming. Oh yes. Oh, we've got one person watching.
Bye.
Well, it's been 2 hours now.
I just hope these weather holds, because I've got to walk back in.
No, you're not. You got your bus pass with you.
What, with my pixie picture?
It's wicked, that picture.
I couldn't believe it when I looked at it. I thought, where's the other 6 guys and the chick?
We're going to get you a job in Snow White at Derby.
Yeah.
And pantomime, what do you reckon?
Yeah. I thought I'd be at the garden centre with a fishing rod. So, still
No.
look cute.
Woof.
I told my brother Nick, and he cracked out laughing. He hasn't seen it yet.
Well, you know.
Means I've got to see him.
It made my day anyway.
Yeah, it cheered me up a bit, I must admit.
How many people got a bus pass picture of them dressed as a Viking in this country? I bet you're the only one, Egil. You're
Yeah.
one off.
I can imagine explaining it to the bus driver and all. Oh, well, you see, it's like this. I actually have a bike. Yeah, get off my bus. But, so, what's happening now?
Well, we're going to say goodbye now and end this live stream. Within 2 hours, we could carry on, but we're going to talk more random, you know, nuss. We only kind of set out to do a 30-minute live stream, but it's quite nice out here.
Yeah.
And let's face it, you know, we don't do enough live. Every time we're going to meet and film, we'll do a live stream, at least one.
Yeah.
I would have done another one later on, but I don't think we will now. We've done 2 hours.
I think we've bored him enough.
Plus we're not put our video out for a week, so it gives them a little treat to watch.
Yeah.
So say goodbye, Egil.
Goodbye, Egil.
Yes, goodbye, folks. And don't forget to share this video and leave a comment.
And if you've got any ideas what we've been speaking in or rambling on about, let us know.
Yes, if you've got any ideas for future live streams, so we can kind of set an idea, you know, we're more happy to do that.
We'll start off with it, but
Yeah.
I can guarantee it'll wave away.
We always go off on a tangent.
Yeah.
We're just not that organised on this channel.
Yeah.
Well,
you like it like that.
some days these random live streams are really, really good.
No, it doesn't seem like 2 hours.
No, don't. It's fun. How many jobs do you get to do which are fun like
Well,
this?
it's talking about me, you see. I'm an actor. Well,
Yeah.
not actually.
We're going to get you one of those mirrors in your house with a picture of you framed with lights. And
Yeah.
it'll have a little curtain on it.
Well, it'll make a change from looking like a pixie, isn't it?
Well, one day we'll have a plaque outside your house, a blue plaque.
Yeah.
Egil Thorsson once lived here.
Posing as a pixie.
You'll be infamous in Derby history.
I'm partly famous. I remember I can't remember who it was. People remember me.
Yeah, well, you
Somebody
got one of those faces.
I went to York and people said, do you know everybody? And somebody in New York went, hi, all right, mate. And I thought, well, that's answered your question. But, couldn't have timed it better.
Yeah, but, you know, when the channel does go viral, you're going to have to get some kind of a fake look for Derby, because you're going to go around and everybody's going to recognise you.
I love it.
Especially when we start doing more and more of this local content, because there's not a lot of content on Derby. There's a few very good videos that talk about the history or show you old photographs.
Famous people of Derby.
But nobody's making content specifically about Derby history.
Well, the famous people.
Oh yeah, there's so many of them.
Frank Whittle.
Yeah.
I mean, also, if you listen to Radio 4, there's a silent discs, Roland Binge.
Camera.
Roland Binge. He wrote that and Tudor Serenade. And he's a
Is that still
Derby-
going?
What?
You know,
That's Island
yeah.
Disc. Yeah, it's my Sunday treat.
I don't listen to Radio 4.
I
I'm not
lay
old
in,
enough.
I lay in bed and listen to that. It's my one day of luxury.
I get my radio out on the table. Normally I'll be doing gardening now. I've been doing a lot of gardening, Egil. And I listen to Radio 1 at the moment, getting back into that. I mean, I don't understand a lot of what the people are these days, because back in the day when I listened to Radio 1, it was all Scott Mills and Chris Moyles.
We've finished, haven't we?
Yeah, we're going now. Goodbye.
Bye! Oh, I'll tell you what's been bugging me. That spear has the end dropped off it.
We're still live, so just hang on.
Bye!